Good evening and welcome. Tonight we will be going over the history and geography of Attica in Greece. Attica is, of course, the word for Athens, which is the capital city of Greece and the center of many historical happenings as well. The region in general here on the Attica Peninsula is quite mountainous, hilly, and rocky. And it has the beautiful Mediterranean coast as well, like most of Greece does. Here at Athens, we have the port of Piraeus, one of the largest ports in Europe. The region also encompasses many other islands around here. We're going to talk about Salamis in its history. There's one a little farther south down here, Kythera. Let me just try here. And also this piece of the Peloponnesian Peninsula is part of Attica. Just for funsies, I guess. But of course, the crown jewel of the region is the city of Athens, where we can find such beautiful sites as the Parthenon, which is, of course, a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Let me fire up the tablet so that we can read more about it. Hold on. There we go. Make it so you can actually read it. The Acropolis in Athens. Let me zoom out. There we go. Much better. The Acropolis in Athens. The Acropolis of Athens and its monuments are universal symbols of the classical spirit and civilization and form the greatest architectural and artistic complex bequeathed by Greek antiquity to the world. In the second half of the 5th century BCE, Athens, following the victory against the Persians and the establishment of democracy, took a leading position amongst the other city-states of the ancient world. In the age that followed, as thought and art flourished, an exceptional group of artists put into effect the ambitious plans of Athenian statesman Pericles, and under the inspired guidance of the sculptor Phidias, transformed the rocky hill into a unique monument of thought and the arts. The most important monuments were built during that time. The Parthenon, built by Echinus, the Erechtheion, the Propylaea, the monumental entrance to the Acropolis, designed by Mnesicles, and the small temple Athena Nike. There's, of course, many beautiful pictures. I feel like everyone knows what it looks like, but let's take a look at some of the beautiful sights. You can see the caryatids here, holding up the, I think it's the Erechtheion building. Some of the beautiful columns that we have, Doric columns. Some artwork that survived. Of course, we're going to look at the Acropolis Museum later in the channel and learn why exactly it looks the way it does today, because it's quite crumbled apart. There are parts that are attempting to be restored to some extent, but it's very badly damaged, and we'll talk about why in its history. But there's another UNESCO site to touch on real quick. Some monasteries in Greece are UNESCO sites. Daphne is the one near Athens, so let's read this quickly and look at the pictures. Although geographically distant from each other, these three monasteries, the first is in Attica, where we are near Athens, the other is near Delphi, and the third's an island on the Aegean Sea near Asia Minor. They belong to the same typological series and share the same aesthetic characteristics. The churches are built on a cross and square plan with a large dome supported by squinches defining an octagonal space. In the 11th and 12th centuries, they were decorated with superb marble works, as well as mosaics on a gold background, all characteristic of the Second Golden Age of Byzantine art. Quick note, here in America we say Byzantine. I know most other English-speaking countries say Byzantine or Byzantine. I'm American, so I'm going to pronounce it the American way. Don't come for me. But I love that gold art is my favorite part, other than just the beauty of these little Orthodox sanctuaries here. They're all very distinct and shaped, lots of arches, lots of pretty little domes. And a beautiful octagon shape, very characteristic of Greek churches. But the mosaics are just so gorgeous. We'll look at the one in Daphne and see the beautiful gold art. It's so pretty. Look at that artwork. The buildings look so ancient and, kind of rustic, but then the inside is like, pew, it's gorgeous art. It's so pretty. Look at that mosaic tiling. Isn't that cool? Look at this one. Very Byzantine style. The kind of like exaggerated eyes, little tiny pupils. Look at that little dove. But let's talk about the history of this region, because Athens is one of the world's oldest cities. There's a lot we gotta cover. Let me move this back out and let me zoom you back in so you can actually see some of the details here, because this is a very big map of Greece that I have. Put my tablet safely over there. Okay. So people have been living here for so long, about 5,000 years or so, ancient times. The legend of how the city was established is that two Greek gods, Poseidon and Athena, were debating over who was going to be the patron god of the city. So the gods set up a contest for them, and the gods would judge who would be the most worthy. So Poseidon created a well of fresh water for the city, and Athena grew an olive tree next to the spring. And the gods debated, and they decided that olives were better than fresh water. I mean, you can eat them, sell them, trade them, make all kinds of things with olives, whereas water is just water. They have a point, right? So Athena won, and thus the city became Athens. And this was all up on the Acropolis, where that Erechtheion building that we saw with the columns of the maidens, that's where that happened, according to the legend, of course. It's wonderful Greek mythology. The first culture that we know lived here for sure were the Mycenaeans, who very much dominated this southern and islandy area. It's centered down in Crete, which is quite a bit down there. Their civilization was destroyed, I believe, due to some volcanic activity and from the invasion of the Dorians. Sorry for my neighbor upstairs. But coming out of that was a new Greek culture that would establish these city-states of Greece. Athens, of course, being one of them. We had Sparta over there. There are a bunch of city-states, just cities that ruled themselves with their own rules. And Athens definitely had its own rules. In the year 508 BCE, they created something called democracy. Something we take for granted nowadays. But it was invented here in Athens, and it was the concept of, what if instead of like a hereditary king or a bunch of like lords controlling things, what if we let anybody be chosen to lead the city? And what if they were chosen by all of the citizens that lived in that city? What if they all voted in whoever wanted to run for the position? And it was quite an interesting concept, right? very new, but that was how Athens ran. And they invented democracy, government of the people, democracy. The neighbors to the east over there would eventually become known as the Persian Achaemenid Empire, and they were looking to expand. They were hoping to conquer the islands and city-states here in Greece, but they had some formidable opponents. Sparta over here in the Peloponnese Peninsula were known for their extremely fierce warriors. They were a warrior society. Athens, of course, not so much. They were focused on learning and things like that, book stuff, coming up with philosophical thoughts and things. So their military was based around ships. They were a naval power. And they decided that, with our powers combined, we can take down the Persian invaders. In the year 490 BCE, which I think you can see, my map labeled it, right? Or is it, sorry, the Battle of Marathon, 490 BC, it says it right there. King Darius the First, I believe, had attempted to invade, and they were fought back here on the battlefield. The Persians vastly outnumbered the Athenians, but by luck, some say by, the gifts of the gods, the Athenians won out. And there was a messenger there who was relaying things to Sparta and around the area. He was a long-distance runner, and his name was Phidippides. And they told him, Phidippides, go to Athens and tell them that we won. So he ran, the 29.4 miles from Marathon to Athens and said, joy, we have won. And then he collapsed dead, because that's how fast he ran, I guess. Plus, he'd been doing a lot of running. So he is honored in the marathon, which, yes, that's where the word marathon comes from. If you do a marathon run, whether you're doing it in like miles or meters, whatever, it is the distance from Marathon to Athens. I think that's so neat. Isn't that cool? If you run a marathon, you're running the exact same distance in memory of Phidippides. My goodness, Phidippides. The Persians would come back about 10 years later with a vengeance. This was led by Emperor Xerxes, and he was very determined to conquer Greece in revenge. At one point, he even sacked Athens and destroyed the temples up on top of the Acropolis. He destroyed the entire city, but also destroyed the temples atop the Acropolis there. But he was defeated at the Battle of Salamis, which you can see right there. The Battle of Salamis, 480 BCE, defeated by the naval power of Athens. And the Persians never tried to attack Greece after that. After that victory, the golden age of Athens began. It was around from 480 BCE to 404 BCE. A lot of things were going on here in Athens. Pericles, as we saw in UNESCO, was in charge of the city, and he thought, we're going to celebrate this victory by redoing the entire city, making it beautiful and gorgeous, and we're going to rebuild those temples on top of the Acropolis, but we're going to do it in massive style. And he helped create, along with the architects and builders and all of that, the Parthenon that we know today. I'm going to have a whole video about the Parthenon for you tomorrow, so stay tuned. If you're not subscribed, do that now, so you can learn all the details about it. But that's his greatest legacy, is the Parthenon here in Athens. This was the time of Herodotus, the historian that I've mentioned way too often on my channel. This was the time of Socrates, the great scholar slash teacher, which, if you know the Socratic method, which is one of my favorite teaching methods, he created it. He was also sentenced to death for corrupting the youth and not acknowledging the gods enough. This was the time of Hippocrates, the medical scientist, which, if you know the Hippocratic Oath, to I don't know the exact words actually, but it's to, treat everyone equally. If they're in the hospital and you're a doctor, you treat everybody equally. Your main goal is to heal them no matter who they are, why they're there, their past, their future, no matter what, you heal them. That's the Hippocratic Oath in a nutshell. And many, way too many other important scholars, thinkers, architects, scientists, you name it, all of the big minds of the world were here in Athens during this time. This was also when the Delian League was created, which was an attempt to politically unite all the city-states. So in case like the Persians ever tried to reinvade, they would be more unified and there'd be better communication between them. But that just really led to more disagreements between them and would eventually lead to war between Athens and Sparta, known as the Peloponnesian War, which lasted from 431 to 404 BCE. Athens was beaten quite badly by Sparta, the warrior city-state. And that marked the end of the golden age of Athens. Athens was no longer the mighty power that it once was. It was defeated. In 338 BCE, the king of Macedon, which is up in northern Greece, way up there, Philip II came and conquered the region, became part of Macedonia. Philip II is way more famous for his son, who is Alexander the Great, who spread Greek culture all throughout Central Asia and Egypt, the Levant, and many other parts of the world as he conquered and invaded. But eventually that would all be taken over by Rome. And the Romans thought that the Greeks and ancient Greek culture was just the bee's knees. They thought that it was so cool, and they emulated many aspects of Greek culture. From like architecture, the gods, of course, they worship the Greek gods in their own language, in Latin, not Greek. In like almost every aspect, they lived a very Greek lifestyle. Emperor Hadrian was born in Athens. He created the library here and built a big Roman forum there. Eventually, Rome would be split into two empires, a western half and eastern half. The eastern half would rule over there in what used to be called Byzantium, which was changed to Constantinople after the Emperor Constantine. And this area would fall under the Eastern Roman Empire, and that Greek influence would really continue, and the two cultures would really feed off of each other. You know, they spoke Greek in Constantinople. When the Byzantine Empire became a Christian empire, things changed here. The Parthenon became a church. And in the year 529, Emperor Justinian banned the teaching of philosophy, which was another big downturn for Athens because it was still a center of like deep critical thinking. And he said, like, don't worry about that. Worry about the gospel. Worry about Jesus. Worry about how to preach the word of God. You know, focus more on that. So the scholarly aspect of the empire turned more toward theology instead of philosophy, to the point where he had outright banned the teaching of philosophy. And then, of course, we have the art style that you see in what's now Istanbul, right? And what we were just looking at on UNESCO, the beautiful churches and monasteries that were built all throughout here, and their gorgeous mosaic artwork. So pretty. Hello, cat. He's really sad that I'm not playing with him, so if he starts whining like that, just ignore him, okay? I hope he's not too loud. Let me know if he's bothering you all too much, if his whines are a little too loud, and I'll edit them out from now on, okay? Just let me know. I know, baby. Okay. He's probably going to jump up here in a second. Here he comes. And he's here. Hi, kitty cat. Okay. Let's talk about the history of Athens while you rub the camera. Come here. In the year 1204, the Crusaders came during the Fourth Crusade. And the region was conquered by the Latins, which is basically like the Catholics of Western Europe. And they held on to the region until 1458, when they were conquered by the Ottomans. The Ottomans being Muslim, they turned the Acropolis into a mosque and implemented a lot of their culture into the area, which you can still kind of sort of find little elements of. They'll never admit it, but it's there. Kitty cat, please don't mess with my things. Okay. He's trying to get my attention, so he's going to start knocking over things off of the counters. And I'd rather he not do that. So can you please jump down off of this shelf? Kitty cat, please jump down off the shelf. Get down off the shelf. Get down off the shelf. My microphone's attached to this shelf, so I need, okay, he's not jumping down. Come on then, come back to the map. Okay, and, okay, he's gonna go cause havoc over there now. Oh my goodness, sorry for the chaos. Moving on. The Ottomans would eventually fight a war with the Venetians over in Italy. There he goes, goodbye cat. And that would have very dire consequences, because at this point the Parthenon was no longer a mosque or any kind of anything. It was just kind of empty space for them, right? So they used it as a weapons storage, because they thought, surely no one's going to attack this ancient beloved building, right? So it's a safe place to store our weapons in the war. This war, by the way, is from 1684 to 1699, but in 1687, the Venetians attacked Athens. They actually attacked the Parthenon, and it blew up. And that is why it is mostly in ruins today. There are a lot of other reasons. People took the marble from it for building projects. Fortifications also during this war, they took marble from it. But it was very destroyed at that point, beyond repair. But flash forward to 1834. By now, Greece had fought the Ottoman Empire for their independence and had won. And they chose Athens as the new capital city. It was going to be a kingdom, so the king was going to live in Athens. And they chose it because of the historical importance of the city. At this point, it was barely anything anymore. It was a bunch of ruins. It was a little town. There's not a lot happening there, so they thought, we got to redecorate this whole place. So they started rebuilding the city into more what it is today. The Olympics were revived here. The Olympics, of course, being originally performed in the city-state of Olympia. But Athens hosted the 1896 Olympics, and flash forward, they would also host in 2004. The best being that for the marathon competition, they did the actual marathon, where you run from Marathon to Athens. I don't know, because I don't run. I actually can't run. It's a medical thing. I can't run, so I don't understand running. But for you runners out there, is that like a dream run to do Marathon to Athens, to do the marathon? Like, is that a thing that runners aspire to do? Let me know. But the city would only grow and grow and grow in the 20th century. War would break out between Turkey and Greece. And the many conflicts that would happen between them. Lots of Greeks were kicked out of Turkey. Lots of Turks were kicked out of Greece as well. And the population swelled after World War II. Once all the Nazis are out, the population swelled again. And Athens is where it is today. A very big, sprawling city. The largest city in Greece. Very, very big, bustling port. Just So many museums, like too many museums with all kinds of antiquity. Of course, they built the Acropolis Museum right by the Acropolis because a lot of the Acropolis had been preserved in other museums, particularly the British Museum. So some of it has come back, but not a lot. So they built the museum to preserve what they can. And there's just a lot to see. Why don't we head over to the tablet? Because I'm itching to show you guys. There's like too much to see. This segment's going to be so long. I got to cut it down. But let's head over to the tablet and check it out. Here we are, Attica in Greece. First of all, I'm going to zoom out so you can see the entire area. Let's look at Greece. First of all, here's Greece. Let me use pencil. It's dark. Where's my pencil? Hello. Okay, never mind. I can't find it. Here is Greece. Here's the Mediterranean Sea. There's Italy there. Turkey. There's Greece right here, and all of the many, many, many Greek islands here in the Mediterranean Sea. You can see the red ones here belong to Attica. This one down here, and this one down here. But let's zoom in, of course, on Athens. There's like so much to see, I don't know where to start. Let's just zoom in and see what happens. Well, here we are. Let's say, oh, the prison of Socrates, that's new. We are going to look at the Acropolis first, I guess, because that's where we wound up. Put this in 3D so you can, I'm going to put this in 3D, there we go. So we can admire this big hilltop here. Here's the complex, and what's interesting on Google Earth here, you can see this big crane in the middle as they're trying to rebuild parts of it. Also interesting about the Acropolis is that this big theater was built. Where is it? Over here? Temple of Themis. Look at all the ruins down here. Various temple complexes all around it. Big wall around it. Here it is. This big theater built just below it. That's really cool, I think. Many of the old temples here, the big entranceway, and you can really see all of the little ruins and things all around it. What's left of it. We can look at the old museum and see some beautiful pictures of the view of Athens. And what's left up here on the Acropolis, statues, old sites, things as they once were. There's the big theater. Beautiful rainbow over Athens. But let me put this back in 2D so I don't lose where I am. We have the new Acropolis Museum over here. Just right there, big modern building that houses a lot of artifacts that have been rescued or brought back, along with the little Greek towns built over this town. Lots of, you can see there's Poseidon and Athena. And they really tried to make sure that, oh, look at this Lego Acropolis, that anything that was taken was placed exactly as it would have been on the structure. So that you can really get a feel for what it would have looked like from what has survived this year. See some horses in there. That's what it would have looked like all built. It had a huge, huge statue of Athena inside. That was all golden and beautiful. And again, check out my video tomorrow. We'll talk about the Acropolis in full detail. Also nearby, we have Monasteries Square, which is really like the heart of the city today. There's an old, beautiful Byzantine church and an old Ottoman mosque in the square there. And obviously lots of good food. You can see the Acropolis up there. How cool is that? Lots of good food, right? Lots of fresh food. Get some authentic olives and fruits. Look at these strawberries. Oh, metro. There's a lot of public transit here in Athens. Really helps, but everything is quite close together here. I'm going to show you. I'm trying to think of like all the things I want to show you. Oh, the Agora. The ancient Agora of Athens. This would have been the whole like heart of the city during the Golden Age and during the Roman times. So you can see what's left of these structures there. And see some of the cool statues here. And there's a little church there, really cute. I think it says that's Hadrian, right? Very, very cool. There are places like this all over Attica. They're numerous. You really just like can't throw a rock without hitting some ancient site, it seems, in this part of Greece, which is wonderful. Let's go to, you see all the museums popping up as well. This place is just littered with museums, but I need to show you the museum, the National Archaeological Museum. This is the like biggest, I think it's the biggest museum in Greece, holding all kinds of important statues. This one's bronze, you can tell. This big bronze horse boy there. Lots of, looks like Pan there, probably with maybe Aphrodite. This is probably one of the most famous things here in the museum. This is the Mask of Agamemnon, a Mycenaean king who fought Troy during the Battle of Troy. If you look up anything about Mycenae, like if you're reading a book, this picture will be there guaranteed. This is the most famous Mycenaean artifact. And it's here in the museum. You can go see it along with pottery, sculpture, art. There's Athena. There's Athena Nike. Some Roman art, some Egyptian looking art. All kinds of busts here. It's absolutely incredible. This looks Persian, doesn't it? All kinds of important artifacts. Mycenaean artifacts there. A comedy face. Incredible. And of course a big bowl. The Minoans and Mycenaeans loved their bowls. Also nearby over here, this is where Greece is ran. This is their parliament building. Pull this up. Here we go. Syntagma Square, I think. This was originally built for the king to live in as a palace, but now it's the parliament building. It's all decked out for Christmas in these pictures, but I want to show you the changing of the guard here. This is what traditional Greek soldiers wore, and this is what the guards wear outside the building. This here is the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, and they do a big changing of the guards ceremony here, and it's quite elaborate and very special. You know, any changing of the guards anywhere is all pomp and ceremony, but that one is just really cool, I think. You should Google it and watch a Greek changing of the guards. Do you see all the museums popping up? We're going to check out Piraeus down here. There's the monastery. We'll look at that next. Don't let me forget. Okay. Piraeus, the big port. You can see all of the docking areas here. And there's some cool museums here. This is the Archaeological Museum, where they house artifacts that they have uncovered from under the waters. Things that they've rescued from shipwrecks or just the growing ocean here. Some ruins there. Like I said, you can't throw a rock without hitting something archaic. Something old and beautiful, telling a story there. All of the pottery here. Isn't that beautiful? Look at this big one here. So many bronze statues. Look like rocky ones. So you can tell this was underwater. The little water damage along his little body. What's left of it, anyway. And some gorgeous ruins out here as well. There's a centaur. I also want to show you this Hellenic Maritime Museum, just so I can show you what a trireme would have looked like. Here you go. So when I say Athens was a naval power, these were the boats that they had. They're called triremes. You can see all the oars here were all the usually slaves. But the sailors, I guess, would be sailing, would be paddling this massive ship. And this was to attack. This would hit the other ships to sink them. So that is Athens. There is so much more to see. I highly, highly encourage you to play around here because all of the museums here have incredible slideshows to look at. Please, please check out Athens on Google Earth. There's so much to see here. Oops. Let's look at the monastery because this is our other UNESCO site here in Athens. Beautiful structure here. And the inside, that beautiful gold around these mosaic drawings here. It's obviously Jesus, right? Looks like he's re-emerged after a period of death in that picture. Beautiful courtyards here for the monks. Gorgeous gold again. It's so pretty. I imagine in the candlelight back then, these would have looked alive, right? And how flickering beautiful that gold leaf would have been. Or even if the sun hits it, how dazzling they would have been. Look at the details in the roofs. Little signage there about the UNESCO site. Real quick, down here, this is Salamis, where the battle was fought. There is a memorial to it up here. We can see the soldiers in their boats fighting the Persians there. A tribute to those brave soldiers that defended their city-state. Another interesting island is, where is it? Down here? I don't remember. I shouldn't show you if I don't remember. But it's an island called Hydra. Goodness, where is it? Right here. The interesting fact about Hydra is that they do not allow cars or motorcycles or any kind of motorized thing on wheels. The only thing they allow are like trucks with like food and supplies. But you can obviously tell why, because if I like, what is this? What's this slideshow? I can't see. Oh, historical mansion. Oh, pretty. If I just show you a slideshow of the town, it's like, how are you supposed to drive a car down there? Like, it just makes sense that they do not allow cars. There's horses. I think that's mostly for tourists, though, to ride around. And of course, it's gorgeous, right? Because we're in the Mediterranean. Lastly, I want to show you out of the islands here. Oh, I'm in the wrong peninsula. Show you Marathon. And then we'll look at some of the forests on the outro. Here's Marathon. And there's a super cool museum here all about the battle and the famous run. There he goes, running off to Athens to tell them the good news that Athens has won the fight against the Persians. The flags there, that's participated in the marathon runs. Laurel wreath there, prize for Olympians. A poster here for the 2,500th anniversary of the Battle of Marathon. some artifacts here from marathon runners. And, oh, Olympic torch. Wow. And here is an, Olympic medal from the marathon run in the 1896 Olympics. Isn't that incredible? I think it's super fascinating. But let's finish this off by looking at some of the nature here, because you can see when I said it was very rocky, mountainous, you can see all of the beautiful green around here. So let's finish off this video by looking at it. Thank you so much for watching. Apologies for the cat moment. I cannot control him sometimes. He just wants to play and cuddle. Doesn't understand why I'm not doing it. That's all. He means well. If you enjoyed this style of content, please consider subscribing. This is an ongoing series on my channel. Next, we're heading over to Samoa, which we're going to look at some even more beautiful, beautiful water. The gorgeous island there of Upolu. So be sure to subscribe so you won't miss out. I hope that you found this video to be relaxing and educational. And I hope that you have a good night. Good night.